me so done. They think that we're all so done. So now North Korea is claiming that its new spy satellite actually took photos of the White House. Now, whether we believe this or not, that's up to you. As far as the North Korea satellite, twice they tried to launch it and it failed. Even Japan said that there was going to be some serious conversations, some serious consequences if they actually launched it, and they did. But yet nothing really happened. There's been a lot of fire and fury said, and Rocket Man this and Rocket Man that, at least over the last few years. But they continue to do exactly what they're not supposed to do. They say a whole lot of threats, but they never really act on it. But I have been starting to wonder if they, long term, are going to be the ones who pull the trigger. And it won't be all that they are puffing their chest or trying to be the tough guy, that they would be used as a tool by China or Russia. Pretty much in my eyes, it's Xi Jinping, not anybody else. I think everybody else answers to him, including half of our politicians here in the U.S. North Korea claimed its first spy satellite put into space, which was launched into orbit last week, has taken photos of the White House, Pentagon, and nearby naval stations. It says the prominent U.S. sites add a list of areas North Korea claims to have photographed using its reconnaissance probe that was launched on November 21st. It says that the state's official media said that leader Kim Jong-un has seen the latest images along the previous photos of Rome, Anderson Air Force Base in Guam, Pearl Harbor, and the U.S. Navy's Carl Vinson aircraft carrier. South Korea salvaged one of North Korea's spy satellites after a failed launch earlier this year and concluded the technology had little military value. While Seoul believes any North Korea satellite would be rudimentary at best. So they keep saying this, and they've said this for a long time, that anything that comes out of North Korea is going to be crap. They've said the same thing about China for a long time as well. But again, now China has advanced fighter jets that equal our own because basically they stole our exact blueprints out of our computers. But again, you have to think about that China angle as well. China has been working with Kim Jong-un. Russia has been working with Kim Jong-un. In fact, the only reason why they have a super EMP weapon is because of Russia. Russia admitted that they said, well, we either gave it to them or they took it. Kind of a BS answer if you ask me. They either took it or they gave it to them, which it sounds like they gave it to them. Now they have done multiple deals with both China and with Russia, including Xi Jinping visiting and all of these back and forth kind of visits between all of these different leaders. And now they have, of course, evidence that they have been trading arms, that they are possibly doing very, 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 very illegal, not within the parameters of the UN things inside of North Korea. Now, take everything with a grain of salt because it is all on the other side of the planet, and we have to basically sip on news through mainstream Kool-Aid that 90% is narrative driven by some power that we can't see. But this is definitely kind of freaky, but it is nothing compared to the rest of tonight's show. So again, tonight we're going to go over a whole lot, so stick around. Thank you, Trinity, and others for being here. We'll do a roll call in just a minute. Thank you guys for all making it. Again, we'll be right back. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, remember, as always, we have a full bibliography over on marfooglenews.com. You can find all of our sources. Again, because we are covering current events, you can always go check our work. If we do make a mistake, you can point it out to us in the comments. But most of the time, we are doing a lot of work beforehand to make sure that we're not making any really, really absurd claims or putting out dates that don't exist, or scaring people for no reason. The reason why I say we're in World War III and all of the events that are happening right now is because I've watched this for a long time, and that is what I believe. I'm pretty done with first 2 years of being in this position and being on YouTube. I didn't want to say it because I didn't want people to call me a fearmonger. I didn't want my friends and family. I didn't even talk to my friends and family about it. And again, now it's kind of going full circle because now nobody wants to hear it. Nobody wants to talk about the taboo subjects of what is actually happening right now. Not to mention, if you are like me and you have told, hey, things are going to happen, people go, oh, well, you said that last year. But over 5 years, it has progressively gotten worse. It's incremental. But I don't think when the final fuse is lit, it's going to be an incremental thing at all. But we have been able to, with seeing the patterns, with information from Foogle family members, from one of the plus 1,000, over 1,000 military members in this channel and in the community, and of course local law enforcement and others that have actually talked to us and told us about different things. We have been able to allow people not to be surprised by a ton of the events that have happened over the few years, from CV to the next CV, everything in between. A lot of the things in the chatters that has happened online has come true. And it's absolutely terrifying that the next pattern is much worse than anything we've seen before. Again, you tell your friends and family this kind of stuff. They look at you like you're crazy. And a lot of that is, a lot of it could be chopped up to partly our fault. I know that there's a lot of people that tell their friends and family member after they get excited about a YouTube video or a Twitter account that says, November 23rd, the world is going to end, that kind of stuff. When you tell a friend or family member that you really do care about and you want them to get prepped, you tell them like, oh, it's definitely going to happen this day, and it doesn't happen that day. They're never going to believe you again. They're also not going to click on the links you send them. They are not going to pay attention to what you say. And that's why we have made sure that we try to do the best we can with trying to give you the best information possible. Our reputations lie on it. So again, with this, it's like I am absolutely sure we are in World War III right now. And that's because of what I believe in my heart. I've seen it. I am preparing my family for a potential event. That does not mean we're crazy. That is a taboo, and it's something that our country here in the U.S. has heavily put that to. If you look at people in Finland or any of the other countries we've been talking about lately, they're shutting down their borders to Russia. They just shut the final entrance. They're not letting any Russians in. That's a sign that there's something going on. If you look at countries even in Europe, all of these countries are totally prep central and prep centric, and they tell you to prep. Local grocery stores, when things get crazy, they will do classes and teach you what to buy and teach you how to make your own food. This is something that only our country looks at like you're crazy. And that is because of three-letter agencies saying that it is crazy, because they don't want you to question the narrative. They don't want you to question the media. They don't want you believing anything outside of the purview of what they are trying to tell you. So we don't tell you what to think here. We give you the information. We give you the patterns, and then you can be the judge for yourself. Again, I think if you follow stuff this close for years, you will know what's going on. And if you follow our channel, you will know what's going on. And that is because of our community. Our community is awesome. And again, you'll hear it here in the community before you hear it anywhere else. And and that community also entails all of my peers and everybody else that is, again, we're working towards a greater knowledge. Let's bring in my co-host / internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So, Dex, first of all, we make sure to go over to Marfoogle News. Great video over there. We just talked about CV and how now they are talking about a mystery illness that is affecting wee ones, We were talking about how the tabletop said that that's exactly what they were preparing for. We talked about, of course, now that Europe is hitting these cases, and now that they have actually started, they're essentially putting people back on the regiment in China, in Beijing, and a couple other big cities. They are having them cover up again. So something may be coming. Keep your eyes peeled for that, but make sure to go over and watch that video. We show you what we believe is a very big pattern. And again, those patterns can often tell you what's going to happen in the future. They're not guaranteed, but heck, I think the percentage wise, we have a really good batting average now. All right, let's Dex, before we go over the emergency services, and we're going to cover this because we actually talked about this prior, but a lot of people are talking about this because of what is affected. Before we do that, let's do a quick roll call. Thank you, Basil Para, for being here. Curb Creeper. Jammer, what's up, bro? I was sober when sober wasn't cool. Fade away. Nice to see you. And I'm, hey, happy for you. Mystery School, just comment and go. Comet Moon, OHIO. Everybody from Ohio knows. Lord Andrew, Sean C., Jesus is my king, Callie Sorian, thank you from Missouri, still here in the shadows after 5 years. Hey, that's awesome. The end is near over on D-Live. We've got a TD Freelancer, Allie Baker from West Virginia. Of course, we have Trinity. Trinity was modding there. Thank you so much for being here. Irving Goldberg. We have Dope Heathen. We have 3-Kid Mom. Of course, Lisa Douglas from Iowa. Amherst, Western New York State. Tracy Q, what's going on? And Too Much Information, Woman of Wonder. Hey, nice to see you. Shouts from the great state of Texas. Nice to see you, Woman of Wonder. And thank you as well. Deb Ryan, we have Mr. E and Terry Snyder from Northwest Washington State. Lando T from Wyoming. And DWD David's Way from Fruitland. Hey, nice to see you. Alesia MD, Sky G, and everybody else. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, and then better late than never. Yes, that's absolutely true. Occam's Razor, thank you for being here for a long, long time. Thank you so much, Nanny Anderson from Louisiana. Shout out, of course, to Danish Girl. Thank you to Tennessee Mountain. Again, thank you so much for Gordon Becker for subscribing. Amanda Rupert for subscribing just a minute ago. Thank you, and welcome to the Foogle fam. Welcome to the Mafia. All right, Dex, let's go over the phone lines in Israel. Essentially, they're saying it was not a hack. Something about this I don't believe. But again, we'll have to ask what people actually believe on this one.
Well, they are at the middle of a conflict, and it's been known that cyber has been something that's been targeted at them, especially from Iran and those that they sponsor. So it would make sense that when you see these types of things happen, that they would defaultly assume cyber. And as a matter of fact, it was originally reported as a potential cyber attack. They did when it first came out. So. But what they're saying now is that all of their emergency lines have been restored. But what they had originally said was they were all down. They didn't have, the equivalent to what we would have here, where you dial for an ambulance, that type of service, or contacting the local authorities, MDA numbers, things like that is what they refer to them, as well as contacting the fire department through other sources. So all of those were down. They were just down. Now they didn't say exactly how long, but it was obviously over an hour. Could have been multiple hours, is what we decipher from the information that they are sharing out. But now they're saying, hey, it's just an issue with this one company. They were doing some updates, and they had a malfunction that occurred in all of the Zeke lines, as they say in the quote. So the company engineers were working to restore all the services to full operation. So in other words, they had started a project in the middle of the night, and they messed up something. Now, it could be true, but it's also very likely that they could have been hit. I don't know if they would admit it, and that's probably what we're seeing here with the information that's coming out. Either way, something to pay attention to, especially when we talk so much about how these cyber events are looking at infrastructure, and telecommunications is a big one.
Well, and if you think about the people that live in that country, they probably don't want to scare people over there. They've already told them that there's going to be a T attack or another one, and the reason why they're doing all of this is so there isn't more of those type of events. You have to see the correlation between Israel and any other country. All of the cyber events, these big events happen. We get cover stories all the time here in the U.S. Something will shut down, or they'll have a nationwide grounding, or they'll have some weird tech error that the whole Federal Reserve didn't do deposits. All of the banks, Bank of America, U.S. Bank, Wells Fargo, Social Security checks didn't go in. People didn't get their welfare checks. Like the whole deposit system went down because they said they had a technical error. First of all, how is our freaking society, surrounding this system? And everything is digital now, to the point where if somebody does have the right skills on a computer, that they can shut down the world. Like, that's terrifying to me. And I don't understand how they don't have more old school, more hard kind of backups for this kind of stuff. It's like you think we're evolving, but the thing is we are also evolving all of our vulnerabilities. Once we go entirely to the system, we'll be a slave to it. That's the crazy part. And I learned a lot over the last month. I did not know a whole bunch about how, our phones and our everything works. And I actually had a Fugel fan member kind of talk to me about a lot of this stuff. And then, of course, the other week we were talking about how, even if you have a landline, it's not truly even a landline anymore. It's like, how did we do this? How did we leave ourselves open to this at the same time as it was like people in our government here in the U.S., which we're number one, and if you're our ally, then we're the ones supposed to protect you with our military too. How did we get in a position where other countries were surpassing us in tech? It was almost like our own politicians had somebody sliding into their pocket and having them turn a blind eye to it. It's just absolutely insane. But Jerusalem, Israel, I wonder if they didn't want to tell people because they didn't want to scare people, or something else was going on. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. And then CIA's secret office has conducted UFO retrieval missions on at least 9 crash sites around the world, whistleblower reveal. Now, I have talked to people. I have talked to a couple people that are, I would say, very high up there in the social circles and things like this. And they have said that they believe all or most of this UFO stuff are plants, like they're just a big distraction or a long-term setup for something else. And these are people that, would know. And it's like, as far as anybody who is an UFO or an amateur ufologist, everybody has kind of that hope where I feel like a lot of people that are so, willing to talk, hear that UFOs are real, that if they say it, then they'll just believe it. But you have to remember, you're also believing the same people that over in every 90 other percent of the world and 90% of the other things, you don't believe them and they've lied to you. And then, but you will believe absolutely everything when it comes to this subject because it's something you want to hear. That's what I don't know. As far as the UFO stuff, a lot of the stuff is just like they say that they're going to do disclosure. Why did all of this stuff start coming out? Why did they start showing us videos of Tic Tacs? Is it just too big to hide anymore? Well, I would say if they say that they've been doing this for 50, 60 years, they probably have a system of keeping it down. And honestly, their system of just denying flat out, it could have worked forever. Why are they undoing that now unless there's some reason? I mean, I've heard Fugel family members say they're coming out with it now because we're about to be introduced, like we are about to evolve. And who knows? Maybe that is why. They say that OpenAI, Sam Altman, the reason he got fired is because somebody wrote a letter basically stating that he secretly is actually closer to AGI, or artificial general intelligence, or super intelligence, than they thought. And they said that it was a threat to humanity. What if instead of getting to planets far away that, in every Star Trek and Star Wars is like, oh, that's a type 1 civilization. They're that's when we'll introduce ourselves. Maybe it's when a society creates AGI that UFOs or aliens come down and introduce themselves. Oh, they created super intelligence. Now they're part of, the Galactic Federation or something. Which, again, there's a lot of crazy things that are straight out of science fiction that are now being talked about as rumors of government whistleblowers and things. Dex, this is really wild because it's a secretive, uh, secretive CIA office in the first place. We actually covered a few of these different offices that nobody really talks about and nobody really even knows about. And now there's some sort of whistleblower saying that we've actually responded to 9 different crash sites. What do you think?
This reads just like you're watching a movie. I mean, this could come right out of any one of these major movies, but there is this legitimate group called the OGA, the Office of Global Access, and what these whistleblowers and or at least the ones that they spoke to with intelligence in that area are stating is that that group, one of its responsibilities is retrieval of devices. That can be anything from, say, let's say a crash from one of our planes or equipment, or a test from a nuke that may have, you know, landed somewhere and they needed to go get it. This organization has the experience and the expertise to go in anywhere in the globe, especially behind enemy lines, get something and extract it out, and then deal with it. And one of the things they said they've done is they've dealt with over 9 different instances of non-human related, and as we would just think of them, alien UFOs. We'll call them that for short, but they use their technical terms for them. They say that all of them, but 2 were crashed. They also claim that they have the ability to detect these vehicles while they're cloaked, which is a crazy claim. So they say they can see them, they can see when they land, they can see when they crash, and then they can go in and extract that. And the other interesting thing is, because of the amount of paperwork involved with being a government agency, once they do extract it, they don't hold on to it. They actually turn it over to the military industrial complex, because when they can move it into a private organization, then they don't have to deal with the paper trail of everything that goes hand in hand with holding on to that equipment. So very fascinating claims that are being made here. There's a lot more detail. There's a lot more information that talks about. Some of it backs it up, like some former SEAL team members saying, yes, we do go in and we have helped collect things, not necessarily claiming that they collect UFOs, but they've collected downed ordnances and other stuff that is very highly advanced or highly valuable, high value targets. So it's very fascinating, very detailed, long story. You guys should go read it if you want. I know we're kind of giving you the gist of it, but at the same time, you sort of ask, is it even true? Like, is it just all made up? Is this part of a story to tell us something or to get us to believe something, or is it really true and this is what they've been hiding from us all along? This could go either way, but definitely worth the read.
Yes, and as far as the information that has come out, why would they go to Daily Mail? They went specifically to Daily Mail. Why wouldn't they go to the New York Times? And it makes you wonder, like, if they went to the New York Times, would the New York Times even run it? Why did this person even come out? Is it being done on purpose so that obviously, this is something that they can fall back on to distract people? I don't know. And then we have eerie trio of alien-like humanoid figures with giant heads found painted on African cave, leaving scientists baffled. So this, again, fitted in. We almost cut it from the show, but I really couldn't after the last story. It once you see some of the pictures here, let's see here. No, I have to go to the original. So if you look at the carvings, this isn't the one, or it is, but you got to see the ones on the actual article. So let me so check this out. This is their images of what they say is on the side of caves, right? Almost looks like a trilobite. Is that what they call those fossils with some sort of tail? But if you look at the other one, it's kind of, you could say, oh, were there trilobites and there was lines drawn from them or something? But no, it looks like they were trying to represent these weird creatures with heads, 5 times bigger than their body. And then this other one is kind of indecipherable. but shows the same kind of thing. It's definitely wacky, but they are saying that the Erie trio in both, there is 3 of them, right? What the heck? Yeah, for those who do the symbology and the symbolism stuff, what do you think about that? Dex, go ahead.
Well, the thing that I that first thought, I'm like, "Oh, well, what if it's just stick figures?" I mean, when I was young and I drew a human, they were stick figures. They were skinny and they had a round head and they had little stick legs and stick arms. So, but then when you look at the rest of the art that is depicted on the rock, the buffalo or whatever equivalent to that would be at that time, giraffes and other animals are not necessarily depicted in stick figure style. They're depicted in their fullish, roundish style, and it almost looks like there may even be some others that are not necessarily depicted in that strange alien looking as they're suggesting here. So anyway, it's
It
fascinating. It goes hand in hand with what we're talking about, but
it
makes you
kind
wonder
of
what was
looks
going on.
like an image of Africa, and the line, somebody said it could be hair. As far as this goes, it could be the headdresses that they wear. Do you guys see that? The It could be the feathers, or those really really intricate, crazy, huge masks that they do in different tribes. I mean, there's a giraffe. Where do you really see giraffes on these besides the certain areas, right? So, and buffalo though, I don't know. Buffalo and giraffe. Is there anywhere where there would be a giraffe and a buffalo together, or would it be called a different, like an ox or a whatever other kind of animal?
Yeah, they have wildebeest, elands,
Wildebeest.
buffalo, and giraffe. But yeah, they do have buffalo there.
They do have in Africa,
Yes.
huh? And then let's see here. And then China athletes as young as 7 in military training to create Iron Army. Before we go over that, I do want to remind you, if you haven't already, make sure to go over and check out Energy. This is one of the best solar generators on the market. It works like Lego system. You can actually expand it up to 96 batteries. It can run off of solar panels. You can get unlimited power from the sun. It's very easy. You just plug the solar panel in, just like plugging in a plug one male into female, and then boom, you're done. If you have multiple solar panels, you can daisy chain them. It's extremely simple. You don't have to be a genius. You just have to know how to plug one thing into another. So that's why these are really, really simple, really easy to use, and you can actually charge them from the wall as well. So you can actually, well, you do have power, you can charge them up, and then if you lose power because of a storm or a disaster, you can turn it right back on and keep going business as usual. They are silent. They do not take gas. And of course, they won't be heard from 3 blocks away. So you can go gray. Go to marfuglenews.com/energy. And again, this is the really cool one because it can be altered, it can be modded, it can be turned into whatever system you want it. If there's a feature that a solar generator has, if it doesn't have it already, they are most likely working on a mod that will do that. They will actually sandwich in, like the UPS rapid charger. This actually clicks right in, and it actually turns it into a rapid charger that can charge each battery in about 45 minutes. And it turns it into an uninterrupted power supply, meaning that if you plug your fridge into this, that into the wall, when your power goes out, it will automatically switch over to the power. On top of that, it doesn't hurt your battery when it stays plugged in, so it doesn't degrade the battery while it is in that mode. That is what's so cool about that one. But there's all sorts of other mods that are in the works, and of course there's the supercharger that lets you triple the amount of panels, all sorts of great stuff. When you go and get this, not only are you going to get a big discount, but you're going to help our independent channel. Advertisements like this and our affiliates, it helps us run because we are completely on our own. We are buried, and we really appreciate every Foogle family member that helps us. So thank you guys. And again, share us out. That is the most important. All right. And Dex, as young as 7, this is another one. Like, you got to see the picture on this. Like they're taking children and turning them into soldiers. I mean, they're not going to be fighting for a few years, hopefully, but this is what they're preparing them for.
Exactly. So they're taking the athletes specifically. They're going after the athletes, the young athletes, and they're going to put them through military training in Shanghai. And they say it's designed to instill discipline and quote unquote the good fighting ability, according to the Chinese city. But by doing this, they are taking them and putting them through this process to get them. I guess it goes hand in hand with a lot of their initiatives around and making sure that people are, I guess, what they call patriotic spirit in China's youth, which is a big issue for them. But it's also introducing them quickly to the values that are needed for and the training that they want, and get them ready for quote, as they say, actual combat. So that's what they're looking for. They say, it's kind of crazy to think about them taking the kids. I mean, like I know, like we have ROTC and stuff like that in the high schools, but that's not the same thing. This seems to be much different. They're going all the way down, and they're specifically going after the athletic youth, which probably is the most likely early indicator for them to find, what would be uh, potential military, uh, you know, equivalent men as they grow, right?
Sean C says brainwashing never hurt anybody. Yeah, okay. It does, and unfortunately, 99% of the humans on Earth right now are in a lot of pain. Let's see here. All prepped up. Nice to see you, Dangerous Dax. Be Real Beast says appreciate you. Well, thank you. I appreciate you as well. And Jennifer V says thank you to whoever gifted memberships last night. So that's one thing. Again, that is a really cool thing that people are allowed to gift memberships to somebody, because then obviously if they can't get one themselves, somebody else can give it to them, which is awesome. But I don't actually see those. So we're waiting on an update so where we can actually see the gifted memberships so we can shout them out. Thank you, though. Basically, somebody in the chat got Jennifer a membership. So that's really, really cool. And thank you guys. Thank you for supporting us. And then thank you for supporting us through gifting something to somebody else. That is really cool. Thank you.
That's genius by birth. You gifted 5.
Thank you, Genius by Birth. William, sorry. And then Danish Girl, hello, friends. Much love to you all. Hey, nice to see you. Kim O'Donnell, it's been a minute. Thank you for coming. And then Bobby Sue, Lori Steck, and Captain Opana. And then Whatever Forever, thank you. And then Pentagon scrambles to pay for Middle East troop buildup. So there's a big piece in here that is a really bad quote. Now, I think this is actually a different version.
Yeah, we may have to go to the original.
Yeah. So check this out. We're taking it out of hide. At first, I'm like, I have not heard that, but I could basically figure it out. And I was thinking, taking it out of your hide, like pulling it out of your backside, like that's how I took it. But that's essentially what they mean. There is no money for the Middle East buildup. So all of the military stuff that's going over, and all of the money, the fuel, everything that's going on, the running operational costs, there's no money for that. So how in the heck are we not only supporting, Russia and Ukraine? Why and how are we going to do all of this stuff, with the buildup in Israel versus Hamas? Well, they're saying that there's no money for that. So what are they going to do? They're basically printing it from thin air. It says the Defense Department has ordered additional aircraft, carrier strike group, air defenses, fighter jets, and hundreds of troops to the Middle East since the surprise T attacks on Israel on October 7th in an effort to prevent the conflict from spiraling into a regional war. Which, by the way, if you see two guys fighting and then both sides send a bunch of guys in, usually it causes a bigger fight. It doesn't really calm it down unless they're going in and actually pulling them away and holding them. But the scare factor, like, hey, we're that usually makes it worse, especially when, I don't know if you've dealt with, most of these countries have very thick-headed men in charge, so we're pretty dumb sometimes. But it says the military, like the rest of the federal government, is operating under a temporary funding measure that freezes spending at the previous year's levels. And because the Middle East troop movements weren't planned, the Pentagon has had to pull money from existing operations and maintenance accounts. So, translation, they are taking money from other parts that were already in the budget that this money was supposed to go somewhere else. They didn't have a fund for this, so they're pulling from other places. And we're probably opening up vulnerabilities because we don't have this money. It's really, really stupid. So that alone, with the Dwight D. Eisenhower carrier group and the Gerald R. Ford carrier group over there, and the amphibious ready groups that are over there, and of course everything else that's going on by near the Philippines and the South China Sea, it's like, how are we paying for all of this? Who is going to foot the bill? Well, I'll tell you what I think. It's us. And it's also other programs that are going to suffer because of it. I wouldn't be surprised if they never do another pothole for the next 20 years because they won't be able to afford it. And then Dex, this is really, it's just weird because they said that they were going to close some of the entrances. Then they closed more of them and left. First, they were going to have 12 openings open. Then they said that they were only going to keep 4 border openings open. Now they're saying that, then it went down to 1, and now they're closing them all.
Exactly. So they've just been working their way down to 0. It was when we originally reported this, the interesting thing that we talked about was where that they were dealing with what they referred to was crossings into their border, and they were asylum seekers, and they were coming from certain countries, but they were coming by way of Russia, and they were blaming Russia for doing it. And the people that were coming in from specific Middle Eastern countries, which have a lot of allies with Iran and others, and especially with Russia, obviously going in that way. So there was a speculation or thought or concern that might be another path for infiltration under guise of asylum seeking. That was one avenue that I think a lot of people were sort of speculating or reading between the lines, because they didn't come right out and say that. They didn't want to say that. They were just saying we're closing it down because it's just too hard for us to deal with all of these people, and they're sending them in. And of course, Russia was really upset, saying, "Why are you doing that? We don't want the borders closed. You're destroying our relationship," et cetera, et cetera. So this has just progressively gotten worse. With the first one that they closed, it got bad. Second and third, it got worse, and now they just flat out said, "Well, we're going to close them all. They're all shut down." So they've taken it to the highest level, I guess. At this point, there's nothing left to close.
Yeah, and a lot of people are asking, what is the big thing that they're doing this? The official narrative versus what people are thinking is going on. This was also brought up in the very first place when they started closing it down. They were saying that they were worried about sleeper cells, about different things like this. Of course, the official narrative, though, has said other things. But and immigration things, it's something doesn't seem right. And of course, Finland joining in almost last, I believe, right? No, Sweden joined in last, right? Was it Finland that joined in last? Are they the latest addition to?
Finland went first. Sweden was after.
Yeah, so Sweden is last. But again, not a favorable move. Russia was pretty pissed off. Now they're closing their border to Russia. What was Russia planning, or was it even Russia? Was there something else going on? Remember, that's a NATO country, and if there was a bigger plan or some sort of Fantastic Freddy that was going to go down, Finland would be a really big target. It wouldn't be so much about going after Finland. It would be going after NATO. If something happens in a NATO country, then everybody gets involved. So even if they hated us, they could go do something in Finland that gets NATO involved, and then all of a sudden we're involved. That would be crazy, though, because why would they want us to get in a war? Who wants that, right? Well, I know that there's some people at the top that really want it bad. Probably because how much stock they own in all of the military-industrial complex. And then Polish truckers start round-the-clock blockade of fourth Ukrainian border crossing. Yeah, this is just, again, it's like now they're essentially doing their own kind of own protests here. Polish truckers and farmers started round-the-clock blockade of access on Monday to Medkia, one of the busiest border crossings with Ukraine, extending a protest that has left thousands of lorries stranded for days in queues that stretch for miles. The truckers say that they are losing out to Ukrainian companies which offer cheaper prices for their services and which are now transporting goods within the European Union rather than just between the bloc and Ukraine. It says, quote, "I would like this to end this protest as soon as possible because it is burdensome for all of us and everyone around us," said Thomas Burkowski, leader of the Committee to Protect Transporters and Transport Employers, a Polish union. It says, "We have no intention of giving up, and we will stand until we get our terms." Polish truckers have already been blocking access to 3 other border crossings since November 6th, demanding that the European Union reintroduce a permit system for Ukrainian truckers entering the bloc and for EU truckers entering Ukraine, with exemptions for humanitarian aid and military supplies. Now, one thing that happened, and I forget, we covered the story that tells us how and why this was happening, or why so many more Ukrainian drivers were taking all of the business. So all of these Polish truckers were essentially losing out a ton of money and a ton of services to these trucks. And it showed it quadrupled in an amount of time the amount of Ukrainian drivers that were getting the same kind of work or something. Dex, I think I'm paraphrasing, of course, but
yeah,
I think
you're spot on. I think they've said that there's up to 50,000 trucks now that were crossing the border per month, and that was more than double what it was before the conflict. So that the fact that they're coming in and they're doing everything at a fraction of the cost, it's basically eroding the business that was there for the trucking system in Poland, which was serving all of EU. It's not just in Poland; it's the rest of the European Union. So, and UKR is trying to pick up that business and do it much more cheaply. And of course, businesses will pay they'll go to the lowest bidder. They don't care, so they're gonna block the border and not let them through.
well, and then as far as the stuff that's going on here, somebody said something about UN. Maybe they're worried about UN coming in. I don't know. At this point, nothing would surprise me. Mark C, thank you. Patrix 421. Lori, thank you. David, hey, nice to see you. Maybe those drivers from UKR will pay taxes and send us money. Yeah, sure, David. Nice to see you, and I hope Laura is having a good night too. And then before we move on, make sure to go over and check out marfooglenews.com/EMP. This is an actual device that can protect your cars, trucks, motorcycles, vehicles, anything that runs against an electromagnetic pulse. It won't be too much use until you have to have it. And again, it's basically one of those things that if you don't have it, you're going to want it. And once you do have it and something happens, you're going to thank yourself. It will then ground the signal of an EMP or all 3 phases of an EMP in less than 500 trillionths of a second and keep your vehicle running. That way you can get to where you want to go or get home so you can bug in. This also protects against solar events, which we're going to talk about at the end of the show. We actually have a triple solar flare going on right now. There's a lot of unpredictable things happening on with that as well. But again, we'll cover that here in a bit. But this is a great way to reassure yourself that you're going to be able to get where you need to go. You can also protect your generators, so you know that your generators are going to be able to back you up in the case of an EMP. It does gas-powered generators, and in the case of the Energy, the Flex 1500, you can actually get an EMP shield directly made for it. They have partnered up to make a very special EMP shield for that unit. So, marfooglenews.com/EMP, and make sure to use the code MARF. Not to mention, there's all sorts of sales going on from Black Friday to, of course, Cyber Monday. All sorts of different sales are happening right now. And with EMP Shield, our code always stacks on top of that. So make sure to utilize that and utilize the timing as well. And then Amazon announces the 17 letter. So this is what's crazy. And Dex and I were talking about this. So as you guys know, people got completely demolished off of the platforms. There was a whole list of people, and it was literally a list of people. Anybody that had anything somewhat to do with that subject, that letter, they were gone permanently. If you guys remember Edge of Wonder, or all sorts of creators just gone overnight. It was one day, everybody was gone. And folks were talking about other channels that were recently nuked. I told you guys this. I told you it was going to happen. And people go, oh, why do you say UKR and why do you say this? Are people still not getting it? An information conflict is a whole lot better with 10 soldiers rather than 0 soldiers. And if you go into a battlefield, you don't wear a bright orange vest. You wear camouflage. Otherwise, you wear the bright orange vest and you run out there and go, yeah, I'm going to tell you exactly what's happening and I'm going to say it exactly how I want to and nobody's going to stop me. Pop, pop. And then you're down on the ground and you're gone and you will be remembered. That's how it's been lately. But the reason I'm getting to this is maybe at some point, Dex and I were talking about, maybe this will be so normalized because there's now 2 companies working on something called this. I've heard some crazy, crazy theories lately, like that thing that happened the last couple years with that letter, that was like a future AI that was going back in time or sending messages back through time to basically do this crazy thing and organize people so T-Man could win and all this. I don't know. But one thing I do know and I find odd is not only Amazon, but also OpenAI are both naming their stuff after this letter. Why? It says Amazon announces the letter, this one, an AI chatbot for businesses. It says the product announced at Amazon Web Services reInvent conference in Las Vegas represents Amazon's latest effort to challenge Microsoft and Google in productivity software. It says initially this letter can help people understand the capabilities of AWS. People will be able to talk with it in communication apps such as Salesforce's Slack and software developers' text editing applications. Besides all the actual tool things, it says AWS, the letter, will be a game changer for AWS customers who will have a plethora of service options, oftentimes overlapping to navigate. Main point of this is that they are releasing this AI thing called this, and it's absolutely just weird as heck. It's like, why name it that? Now, it actually goes into, it says that depending on who you ask at the company, which this one didn't load either. Gosh, we've had bad luck. It says, depending on who at the company you ask, it will tell you that it's either based on, what's it called? Q from Star Trek, or no, Q from James Bond, which was the character that made all the gadgets, or the other one from Star Trek, which essentially was a time-traveling, all-knowing being, and that could go through different dimensions, right? So kind of a trip. And then, of course, you have OpenAI, this whole thing. So for those that didn't hear us talking about this the other week, this whole AI thing is getting absolutely nuts. It of course, it's crazy because this is actually called this, right? Why is this all being called this? Obviously, like, companies avoid the stigma of theories and conspiracies and all of that kind of stuff. They avoid any kind of name or any kind of brand. It doesn't even go to gold. It doesn't even go to where it's going to come out to the public if they feel like they're going to name their thing something that will have a negative connotation to it. So why are both of these companies naming their thing for AI this? That doesn't make sense to me. I don't care if they're huge Star Trek fans or huge James Bond fans. Either way, James Bond, it would be like, oh, it's a reference to a spy and, it's a tech thing. Or if it's Star Trek and it's, an all-knowing being that could control the universe, that's creepy too. Dex, do you want to kind of give them the overall, a very quick summary of what this system's supposed to do, and what the controversy was?
Well, so the controversy is that they've alleged that they had that Sam or a portion of the team there had developed artificial general intelligence (AGI), which is what we would think of as something like super intelligence, something we've yet to see in anything that's been released. So they were saying it was so significant, and they weren't reporting it. It was scary, and that was part of why the board reacted the way they reacted. Now, that's the allegations. It's coming from, you can call them whistleblowers or insiders, however you want to phrase it. And to this date, we still don't know, because even the new CEO that they had hired when Sam was out said, "Hey, yeah, I'm taking the job, but the first thing I want to know is why did you fire him? Like, I'm going to launch my own investigation." And now he's sort of out, and Sam's back in. So maybe they don't want the world to know why he was fired. That's what I think about when this is, and we said it. We said when this happened, day one, we said there's a cover up. There's something happening here that they were trying to prevent, or they had taken they had factions in the company that weren't happy with what something had become, and that's what we had predicted, and it seems to be that's the case, at least with these allegations. But why this name? Um, maybe it'll normalize that letter again, and we can actually start saying it without feeling like we're going to get, taken down, because it seemed like anybody that did mention that letter, even in more less nefarious context, was still getting trouble with the platforms.
Yeah, there were people that essentially had no connection to it, but may have had something in their name. They got taken down, and they never got to put back up. Uh, Again, it's just absolutely nuts what ended up happening with that. Richard Koschmeider, thank you so much for the support, and I appreciate the super. Be Real Beast, again, thank you. Jennifer V, thank you, and thank you. And then Dex, I actually need to put in a different battery here in like 2 seconds. Can you go over the ex Google CEO warns about the guardrails?
Yeah, and real quick, one other thought about that letter. I wonder if these folks are dealing with quantum computers, and maybe that what hasn't been told yet is that they've tapped into that power. It's still a stretch, I think, based on where that technology is, but maybe that's where they're headed, and what they built is something that would work off of that. I don't know. It's still a mystery, so we'll find out. But look, as if that's not enough, somebody as insider as Eric Schmidt, former CEO of the platform here, not this platform, but the owner of this platform, the Google, he has come out in an interview, was talking about AI, and he says, "Look, even guardrails aren't enough." He's talking about, again, referring to the development to being equivalent of a nuclear style weapon, and he's talking about AI. So, as another person who obviously has a lot of insight, has a lot of connections, probably has not got his head in the sand, and probably rubbing elbows with a lot of these folks and understanding what's being developed, especially given his prior positions and the positions and investments he has now. Um, for him to come out and make this statement, I guess, is pretty significant. It mirrors other people like Elon, who has said things like this as well, saying, "Hey, it's going to be, a bad thing if we don't get a wrap on this whole notion of what we're doing with AI. If we just continue to let it run amok." And the whole notion that it could really take out humanity isn't just science fiction. It's not just a thing of the movies. It's actually something that can happen, and it can happen in many different ways. It can happen in what you think of in the movies, but it can also happen in lots of other ways that we won't like, and we won't appreciate, and it will probably not be good for the growth and the future of humankind. So, um, you know, that's his position. I share it personally. I think the same way. I'm not. I am not a. I'm a fan of new technology. I'm a fan of advancements, but this one is super scary. And I've just sort of thought, like, if we've got to have a better way to wrangle this one up, or we're not going to like the outcome. And I mean, we're seeing everything from, people being uh, cloned, and it's not, I don't mean that in the physical sense, but I mean that in the digital sense, to information being created, to massive problems being solved by this technology, which on one hand is good. I was just reading earlier, there were ties. We'll talk about the what's happening when the solar system and the solar flares in a little bit. They're talking about potentially using AI to help predict uh, better when those happen, so that we can have more notice of it. Like right now, depending on the type of flare, we don't get a lot of notice. And at best on a CME, we might get 3 days. But there's talking about leveraging something like AI to take all of the massive amount of data and collections and things they've done over the sun over the years, and be able to come back and say, okay, now we have models that can predict it. So there's a lot of good that can come of it, but there's certainly a whole lot of scary and nefarious and even unknowns that can really be a huge detriment to our survivability as a human being.
I think once people are thoroughly educated on the risks of why AI is important, more people will be concerned about it. But what's so crappy about it is it won't happen until after it's already developed. That's the thing. I think that if people knew 2, 3, 4 years ago about all of the risks, and there was, it's not like they were going to pay money to educate the world about it. People have to go out on their own and look. I'm not an expert on it, but if you look at the different applications it could have with militaries, with government agencies, with intelligence agencies, with weapons, with hacking and cyber events and cyber hacking capabilities, it's incredibly scary. Not to mention, it could take control of things. But as the whole thing is that people won't see it until it's already done. Something we will get kind of warning with would be a major solar flare. Now, we won't have much warning for the first kind of smack, but we will have a warning at least a few days or less. Again, they say that some of these go way faster, but we actually had a triple flare, I believe. And I'm going to read because I'm not as skilled at this as Wages, but let me read you part of what he said here.
And Adam, while you're pulling that up, I want to let everybody know that Wages did put up a new video, and we do have it on our website. So if for those of you that do follow the website, make sure to click that show notes link, and you will find his video that'll go into greater detail about this.
Yeah. It says, well, let me see if we were getting increased electrons. Okay, let me look for the right one here. Yeah, hey, this could be an issue. NASA confirms a triple hit with a hit before these hit and then a coronal hole right after. This is by far the most aggressive the sun has been this sun cycle. Those two eruptions on the north will be in textbooks for 5 years. If it goes how they're predicting, we could see G4-5 storms, and if it is the right polarity, we could see high G5 with possible significant power issues. I'll know more as time goes forward. Just thought you guys should know. I actually sent some really, really great images. Again, he put these in his videos. It's really incredible to see what is happening right now with the sun. On top of all of this, and I don't think people can really even take it, because then when we mention sun, they're like, oh my God, everything is happening at once. It truly is. They've talked about solar cycle 25 for the last decade because it is also possibly this crazy, crazy cycle inside of the cycles. So there's the 11-year cycle, and then these two gentlemen who a lot of the scientific community is now are now backing and saying they're actually correct on this, and a lot of people are jumping over to this wagon, are on a 22-year cycle. But over the last 300 or 400 years, they've seen in these cycles, there are certain events that happen at, and I believe what they were saying is at the termination event of one cycle, they would see this certain event. And after that certain event, in the termination event, they would see that next cycle be completely unpredictable and absolutely nuts. Well, they believe they saw that termination event right before this solar cycle started. We actually covered that when it happened because now we're in solar cycle 25 and we are about at the peak. They said the peak was going to be at 2025, but now all of the folks that follow this have now come out and said everything is moving faster, and they believe that we will hit the peak grand solar maximum in 2024. So no matter what you believe on this, as far as the people that do follow this and do study this, they are freaked out. So it should be at least something that you pay attention to and at least not be sideswiped by when it happens. That's the thing. An EMP is not guaranteed. An EMP is up to human fate or human choice. But a solar flare or a Carrington level event or bigger hitting the Earth is a matter of when, not if. It will happen. And it could knock out our entire system. It could knock out all of our power, and I mean all of us. So it's kind of trippy to see this kind of escalation in the solar events. All right, and then real quick, just want to mention, make sure to go check out Harvest Right. Of course, go over to marfooglenews.com/freeze. If you haven't already, go check out all of their machines. This is very deceiving because this machine is huge. The Pro machines are freaking giant. But again, this is now $500 off, so make sure to go check it out. They did their whole Black Friday sale, so make sure to get in over there. If you were watching this and that has expired, our code actually gets you the $300 off. So make sure to utilize that if that is gone, because I do know that they are going to end that, or they have. But yeah, go to marfooglenews.com/freeze. You can freeze dry your own stuff. It is the best way of preserving food, and it can let that food survive for up to 25 years. And then, Dex, do you want to talk about Aiken County's emergency management department is prepared? This is really creepy.
And yes, and they extended it to the 30th. So you guys got another day, and you don't need a code, just our link. But yeah, this county, Aiken County, they were talking about their emergency management and emergency medical system, their emergency management department, and how they are preparing. And they're preparing for, major disasters. That's exactly what they're for. And the director was bragging about it. Outside of, explaining the differences between the, emergency management and the emergency medical services teams, et cetera, he was talking further about it. And he was talking about how they prepared to respond to, different types of events, whether it be, hazardous material from trucks or other types of, things that may happen, or weather events, etc. But this is what's really interesting, is he said, quote, "I started the EMP working group in Aiken County because I saw a need for it," Matthew said. "It's now a state working group. We meet at the State Emergency Management Division, and it has really grown. Imagine a life without electricity. I'm not talking about a week or 2 weeks like in an ice storm." He said, "Imagine 6 months or 2 years without electricity. It's a major problem, and one that is finally starting to gain recognition." So it's good that as we see more and more of these counties, which, at the end of the day, counties are run by, the people that live in it, focusing on things in addition to the standards of weather events or earthquake events or other types of emergency events that happen, to expanding their thought process about what are they going to do to improve and prepare for things like EMPs. And so kudos to Aiken County, wherever that is. But yes, really interesting.
Well, okay, so what's even crazier is they've started this is a kind of a version of an NPP, a neighborhood protection plan. I told you guys about a month ago that this is the time to start those. You can't start an NPP or a neighborhood protection plan after an event happens, because now things are picking up to the point where people are doing the final stages of prep. People are doing neighborhood protection plans. Even emergency management members are actually preparing for an EMP. As I thought it was funny they used the picture. Look at the guy in the background looks terrified. He's saying, "Yeah, I started this because there's a need." This guy just looks like he's scared. I would be too, though. This stuff is like you've got the guy who's supposed to be in charge of emergency management saying, "Yeah, well, just imagine we go years without power." It's like, don't you guys have a plan for that? Uh, won't we get it back in weeks? You know. But yeah. So I hope people are paying attention.
And Adam, that's in South Carolina. And for those of you that know the area, it's actually right near the Georgia border, near Augusta.
Yeah. So you also have all sorts of natural disasters there too that you have to worry about, not just the man-made ones. And then hospitals in at least 4 states diverting patients from emergency rooms after ransomware attack. So they're calling it a ransomware attack. There's been a lot of these where they don't. They say it's a technical glitch or something else. We have pointed out how many of these big attacks that end up actually changing or altering how we live. If a ransomware or a hack actually changes the way that infrastructure works, then it's something to be paying attention to. These could all be practice runs. We have seen many very weird things happen, and half of them, the government or the banking system or the hospital system or this system or that system says that, oh yeah, it was just a technical glitch, and we'll fix it right away. But if the big one happens, if we have a really, really, really bad event happens, there will be no diverting. That's the scary part. Hospitals could not serve because of the shortfall. So diverting patients. Imagine that. You hack a hospital and then they physically start telling people to go somewhere else. I mean, that's a trip. Company said in a news release that patient care continues to be delivered safely and effectively, and essentially in an abundance of caution, they were going to have people moved and, or again, have everybody that was coming in to go somewhere else. We'll see what happens with that. All right. And, yeah, there's so much happening all in a short period of time. All right. And remember, you have a full bibliography over on marfooglenews.com. You can actually go to all of our sources for all of this right there. Dex, go ahead.
If you, we got the Hillsborough thing that's in Screener if you want that.
Oh yeah. So right before the show, I found the tweet by Roz Alerts, and it shows. Is there an update on that, by the way, Dex? What I sent you was like 14 minutes old.
Other than I think there's a few people who have perished, some injuries. It was an auto repair shop. There was some form of explosion, and then it turned into a fire. But the explosion was big enough that it was felt by people not know if it's miles away, but significant distances away. They did say there was no damage to any other structures in the area, but they haven't released any information since it is so fresh as to what actually happened.
So if you're watching the replay or tomorrow, then yes, obviously there may be some updates to this. So remember that when you are watching. I get comments of people that watch it a year later and they're like, "Oh, we already know what happened there." I'm like, "You're watching an old live show." But one injured after the explosion leads to massive fire at Hillsborough Auto Shop. So, that actually stopped happening a lot because new people don't just randomly find us like they used to. I remember, I'm sure you guys remember when a lot of new people found us because the scrolling number of the live, people would try to call in on replays, or a lot of folks would, or they would call into the show, but they would be watching a replay of a different show. So they would call in on a totally different subject. That was pretty fun, actually. We had a lot of good times back in the day before all of the censorship and all of the crap came down on us. All right, and let's see here. Thank you, Rip Crow Readiness. Dingus, thank you. Uma, Morch, What is Happening, WISGen, and everybody else that stopped by. Dex, again, thank you. Thank you for tonight's service. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Much love. Great job, brother.
Now, there's a few other things over on marfooglenews.com. Just go to today's show, and then, of course, pop over there. The overflow is light, so again, go check it out. But there are additional stories that we did not cover over there that we just did not have time to get to. Thank you so much over on DLive. I appreciate each and every one of you. Guys, thank you. Again, I used to be in the library. Thank you so much for your support today. Richard Koschmeider, thank you as well. I appreciate you. Alex Michael, thank you. Says, hey, Marf and fam, longtime listeners, Mrs. and I've got us into a pickle and running out of ideas. Please share. Love you. Be safe. It is in comments. Alex, I will look. And then I used to be in the library. Thanks, Marf, Dex, and Mods. Grace for you, too. Hey, Adam, Dex, and Mods. Glad to be with the Foogle fam. Well, we're glad to be with you, too. And, of course, Be Real Beast. Thank you. And I believe Be Real Beast is our top supporter tonight. Thank you so much for your support. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro. Rainbows and ponies are done. They think that we're all so done. China's trying to be number one, dividing us one by one. A day will come when there ain't 911. You think the cops, they'll come? The same ones that you sent to the fun. You think Chaz is the way cities run? All the rainbows and ponies are done. They think that we're all so done. China's trying to be number one, dividing us one by one. A day will come when there ain't 911. You think the cops, they'll come? The same ones that you sent to the fun. You think Chaz is the way cities run?